This week on Lemon's Car Spotting.
Hey everybody, it is Eric, it is Nick, it is Lemon's Car Spotting, it is episode 100, and we wanted to do something special for this, so we're going to do not Kia Borregos this time, although please don't stop spotting them. We're going to do not cars.
Not cars at all.
Yeah.
And we're starting off with a MiG-21 on a low boy trailer. So I was mentioning to Eric when we came up with this brilliant idea of doing not cars, is like, God, how am I going to be able to talk off the cuff? You know, I've got so much useless car knowledge in my head, and I don't have a lot of other useless knowledge in my head. And boy, this is where we need Judge Phil. He knows about MiG-21s. Cheating and reading the thing. It's a Czechoslovakian Air Force MiG-21 in Kent, Washington. Oddly, not the only Czech MiG in the area. Now, what does it cost to get a ex-Eastern Bloc MiG in the United States? Is it expensive? Is it not expensive? Is it difficult? I have no idea.
I can answer that question. You can buy one for, well, it depends on the condition and so on and so forth, but I think you can buy one, or at least you could like 20 years ago, for like $100,000, which is kind of amazing for an airplane that'll go 1,500 miles an hour.
It doesn't seem like a lot of money for, I mean, like the speed per dollar is pretty good. You know, I don't know what kind of, the guy who played Worf on Star Trek The Next Generation is a pilot. I feel like he had a surplus jet fighter, which if you're flying that and you're the guy who played Worf, you got to wear the costume and makeup when you're doing it, don't you? Right. I mean, I think so.
Yeah. I went to school at Northern Illinois University. We'll get to this. Yeah. And there was a guy at the DeKalb, Illinois airport who had a MiG-21. And he, like, every once in a while you'd be, and I mean like once in a great while, because the fuel bill was insane. But like you'd be walking around and then like all of a sudden you'd hear the and then there's this Cold War era jet like ripping around at 5,000 feet, like just absolutely deafening everybody. It was kind of awesome.
That sounds, if I'm being honest, fantastic.
Yeah, it was great. But yeah, I mean, like it was like $1,000 an hour or something.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Well, what do we have here? I don't know how to describe this. This is in Humboldt County, California, I assume, which sounds about right. It's a custom made, maybe a Burning Man vehicle of sorts. Hard to describe. It's definitely homemade bicycle. I love the chain steering wheel on it. That's a really nice touch. I feel like with the seat where it is, reaching the pedals might not be possible. I don't know how any of this works.
It's also apparently towing a trailer that looks like it's got maybe a bongo drum in it.
Yeah,
which
definitely
also totally tracks for this vehicle and location.
I'm curious as to what the Liberty Bell looking thing in the background is as well. There's a whole lot of unanswered questions about this scene.
There's a lot going on. Yeah. I think it's sort of Rat Fink inspired, is it not?
I could see that. Yeah, the giant eyes on stalks is very Rat Fink.
Yeah. There you go. Rat Fink snowmobile. Oh boy. Oops. Got ourselves a Lasharo. I was just telling Eric, I was walking in my neighborhood, and next to the house that has the custom two-tone match set blue and white mid-2000s V6 Mustang and Dodge Magnum wagon is a house that has a Lasharo minivan RV. Boy, I get the Lasharo and the Vixen mixed up. One of them had a BMW diesel straight six, the M21 straight six. I believe that was the Vixen, though, wasn't it? Yes. I don't know. Tell us about the Lasharo. Well, Eric, what do you know about the Lasharo?
Oh, man, the Lasharo makes the Vixen seem like a good idea. So this was from the time when RV manufacturers wanted to make a more efficient RV. And so they would find some kind of economy car platform. And in the most logical way, Winnebago went with what? Take a guess, Nick.
boy, what year is this?
Like 1984 or 5.
Okay, like a Ford Fairmont.
Yeah, no, it was a Renault like 19 or something.
Oh God.
Yeah, so this is a Renault powered minivan. Like gross weight was like 7,000 pounds,
Oh,
and it had like a
God.
90 horsepower motor. And better still, there was an option for the Renault non-turbo diesel 4-cylinder.
I mean, that's got all of about 36 horsepower. I mean, I'm not lying. Like, it's got well under 70 horsepower, and it must.
I mean, dangerously slow is what this has to be. Now, in the 90s or the 2000s, there was some company in Iowa that will retrofit them with a GM 3800 V6, which kind of makes sense. Yeah.
Given the options, well, I used to have a 78 Toyota Hilux with a 20R, which was a great, if not particularly speedy vehicle. It was quicker than you thought. I mean, Jay had a non-turbo 300 Mercedes wagon at the time, and the 78 Hilux was faster than that. Low bar, I realize, but it's faster than something. And I always looked at those Chinook RVs and was like, man, adding all of that stuff on the back sure ain't going to help the 20R's mission in life. But if your alternative was this or the Vixen with the turbo diesel BMW straight 6, which was not powerful, maybe that Chinook is the best choice if you're doing some RVing in the early 80s.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oof.
Boy.
Oh, yeah. Now we're talking. Much as Hyundai in Korea builds everything, so too does their rival company Daewoo. I mean, if you're looking for a theme for your Daewoo race car, which, by the way, doesn't need a theme, the theme is Daewoo. But if you did, some kind of Daewoo appliance would be perfect for it, like a hotel microwave.
Oh boy. Well, Daewoo also made firearms, and we've had this discussion of like, man, imagine the shame of being smoked by a Daewoo, Daewoo 9mm, man. Yeah,
the whole. We don't need to discuss the economics of the South Korean car industry, but all of the South Korean industry is two companies, so they make everything. From financing to cars, they do all of the things.
Yeah. Yep. Well, Daewoo the microwave. Excellent. Next up, a moped. This is right up my street. It is, it's a Motobécane, or however you say it, French bicycle manufacturer. The French were kind of towards the top of the heap as far as pedal mopeds go. I mean, there were Italian ones as well, but and then whatever Puch was, I guess that's Austrian.
I think so, yeah.
But anyway, there was a Peugeot pedal moped that you can get. Basically, if you were a French bicycle manufacturer, there was a pretty good chance you also made a moped during this era. And there was that brief period of time where like there were hipsters riding around in moped gangs, 10, 15 years ago. I don't know if that's still a thing. But I'm a fan of any two-wheeled or any wheeled object really, but a two-wheeled motorized object, sign me up for sure.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Nothing to add. I don't know anything about them, but it looks cool.
Yep. Generally speaking, they're like 25 cc, and you got to pedal them a little bit to get going. But then once they're going, they'll maintain the speed with the gas motor, I think is the idea.
I think that's the idea. Yeah.
All right. Last non-car for the week.
Oh man. Yeah. So you need to read the comments a little bit, which is that this was a Suzuki dealership.
Oh man.
We have joked on this episode so many times about where would you even go if you wanted to buy a Suzuki. And I think Backroads of Eastern Washington, as you see in the comments, also spotted one. You can go back and find that. But there were Suzuki car dealerships apparently in Midway City, California.
I don't even know where that is.
I don't either. I assume it's in SoCal somewhere.
Yeah, sounds like it.
But man alive, like there must have been at least 7 Suzuki dealerships in the United States.
Imagine being the guy that bought his Kazashi new at Quality Suzuki on Beach Boulevard in Midway City, California. And you know, in 2022, his power steering goes out. He says, well, I'm just going to pop in. And he goes there and finds this. What am I going to do?
Just the most mystifying thing has always been this. And since, I don't know, probably since people started buying cars in the United States, there have been weird little auto manufacturers and trying to buy them. I mean, where would you have bought a Humber in 1958?
Yeah.
Where would you have tried to buy? Did Yugo have dealerships? They must have.
I mean, my parents bought an Opel, and I have asked them directly, where did you buy this? And it was probably a Buick dealer, but they don't really remember. So,
Suzuki hung on an awful long time for a tiny, low volume dealer here in the United States. They must, I think, 25 years or something like that.
Yeah. Well, and you would think that they would have sold them out of the motorcycle dealers, but apparently there were dedicated car only facilities. So
I don't know. Maybe you have to go to the motorcycle dealership if you need parts or service on your Kazashi. I don't know.
Interesting.
Let us know in the comments if you know.
It's like a bunch of icy hot Ridas in leather vests and Gixxer 600s. And then like the dude who bought the Kazashi brand new because he was beating the system in 2008. Oh boy, what a scene. All right. Well, we're still going to do the hooptiest, and I think we're not going to do the Lemons build, although arguably it could with one of these. We'll do what we want to most see in the Lemons paddock. I've got the hooptiest Cold Era Jet, Rat Fink Surrey. Well, boy, there's nothing more hoopty than a Renault-based RV. I mean, RVs in general are already questionable build quality and function. And then just combining that with an already underpowered French sedan is just a mind-boggling choice. And the fact that somebody is keeping one alive-ish is, I mean, what is their daily life like? Like, you know, most people don't think at all about their cars and whether or not they're going to move on a given day. This guy's entire waking existence is occupied with wondering about that. So that's the hooptiest.
Yeah. Minor detail about these cars that I enjoy is what passes for a hood could be any piece of flat anything. So that's the one part on the car that's easy, or on
the windshield for that matter.
Yeah, just a flat pane. You can use anything. So what would we most like to see in a Lemons paddock? Well, as much as I like a nice microwave, there's usually nowhere to plug it in. Parking a MiG-21, always a good idea. But I got to say the good pit transportation, provided you can reach the pedals of the whatever the green thing is. I mean, this looks like it belongs in a Lemons paddock as much as anything.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And, you know, you mentioned Burning Man earlier and the transportation that they have. A lot of crossover with the Lemons paddock. Yeah,
no doubt. I love the fuzzy dice color match. And it also has, I just noticed, a moonroof. So good on that for that.
Very, very nice. Yeah. Very nice. And a honky horn.
Of course. Yeah, that's going to do it for us on Lemons Car Spotting, our 100th episode, non-car spectacular. We will see you next week with a regular batch of crappy cars.
Yep. I think I've officially run out of things to say about this thing.
Yep, that'll do it. Yep.